They provoke you, they insult you, they challenge your dignity, and you explode. But every time you get angry, you lose power. In this video, you'll learn how to never get angry again, not by being soft, but by being strategic, like Machiavelli would. Anger is one of the oldest tricks in the book, and it almost always works on the unaware. When someone disrespects you in public, insults your intelligence, mocks your confidence, or embarrasses you in front of others, your first instinct is to react. That reaction is what they were hoping for. Because the moment you lose your temper, they gain the upper hand. You might think anger shows power, dominance, or strength. But in reality, it shows your emotions are still being controlled by someone else. That's not strength, that's slavery. The wise man knows that real power doesn't come from being feared in the moment. It comes from being untouchable in the long run. And nothing makes you more touchable than rage. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He knew that when rulers allowed their emotions to dictate their actions, they became vulnerable to manipulation. Enemies would learn what provokes them, what triggers them, what makes them lose control. And once someone knows how to make you lose control, they own you. Because every time you get angry, you reveal your weakness. You show where your pride is sensitive, where your insecurities live, and where your armor cracks. To the Machiavellian mind, this is fatal. The man who cannot be provoked is the most dangerous man alive. Why? Because no one knows what moves him. No one knows what he's thinking. No one knows what he's going to do next. The one who doesn't react is the one who creates the rules. While the weak try to push his buttons, he's watching them expose themselves. Every insult they throw is a signal. Every provocation is a mistake they reveal. And while they burn their energy trying to get a rise out of him, he sits still, planning. You see, when someone tries to get under your skin, they're not attacking you from strength. They're attacking you from weakness. Because if they had real power, they wouldn't need to provoke you. They would simply dominate you without saying a word. But the moment they try to bait you emotionally, it means they're scared of your presence. They want to level the playing field by pulling you down to their level. And the second you let anger take over, you fall right into their trap. Imagine a lion walking calmly through a jungle. Smaller animals bark and howl and try to get his attention. But he doesn't stop. He doesn't roar. He doesn't lower himself to their volume. Why? Because the lion knows who he is. Only the insecure need to prove themselves. Only the weak need to respond. The lion keeps walking. That's what real dominance looks like. Silent, calm, unshaken. And that's how you must train your mind to work. Calculated, centered, impossible to disrupt. Because here's the truth they won't tell you. Anger is cheap. Anyone can get angry. Children get angry. Drunks get angry. Fools get angry. But to withstand anger, to withstand public disrespect, to withstand insults, and still walk away with your strategy intact, that's a level of self-com, and very few people ever reach. The modern world has trained you to believe that not reacting means weakness. But that's exactly why most people never win. They fight battles that don't matter. They waste their energy proving things to people who don't matter. And they get baited into drama, gossip, and pointless wars that drain their focus and destroy their advantage. Machiavelli would laugh at that, because the one who gets angry is the one who plays someone else's game. And if you're playing someone else's game, you're already losing. The person who disrespects you in public isn't testing your manhood. They're testing your discipline. The question isn't, can you fight back? The real question is, can you outthink them without lifting a finger? Because the man who fights when he's angry loses clarity. He starts reacting emotionally instead of tactically. And in the world of power, one wrong move can destroy everything you built. This is the essence of Machiavellian thinking. Never let others decide how you feel. Never let a fool set your emotional tone. If someone disrespects you, see it as a trap, not a challenge. And remember, the man who is calm in the face of disrespect isn't weak. He's terrifying, because nobody knows what he's planning. Nobody knows what he's capable of. And most importantly, nobody knows when he'll strike. And that's the kind of man the world respects. The one who doesn't react because he doesn't need to. You never get angry at what you understand. Anger is not just a fire inside you. It's confusion, frustration, and unmet expectations set on fire. That fire only burns when you don't see clearly. Because what you fully understand, you no longer react to emotionally. You respond to it like a chess player responds to a pawn moved on the board. Calm, focused, predictable in nothing, calculating in everything, the average man lives in a fantasy. He expects loyalty from the disloyal. He expects fairness from the cruel. He expects people to do the right thing, even when doing the wrong thing would benefit them more. And so when betrayal arrives, when dishonesty surfaces, when disrespect shows up at his doorstep, he's shocked. He's angry. He screams, "How could they?" But Machiavelli would ask, how could they not? People follow their self-interest. Always, no matter how they dress it up in words like love, morality, values, or loyalty. Behind the curtain, there is always ambition, fear, envy, or self-preservation pulling the strings. Once you accept that, your mind transforms. What once triggered your rage becomes expected. It becomes something you study, not something you suffer from. The moment you remove your illusions about people is the moment you remove your anger. Because now you don't feel betrayed, you feel prepared. Now you don't feel disrespected, you feel informed. You don't feel attacked, you feel educated, and education is power. Pain only teaches the weak. But to the strong, every emotional trigger is a message from the battlefield. Something is being revealed, something is shifting, something you can use. When a friend lies to you, you get angry if you expected honesty. But if you expected him to lie the moment honesty became inconvenient, you're not angry. You're alert, you're collecting data, you're adapting. When your partner lets you down, if you expected them to sacrifice for your needs above their own, of course you're furious. But if you accepted the truth that people act out of self-interest first, you stop demanding the impossible. You stop handing them the knife they use to cut you. And you stop breaking down every time someone chooses themselves over you. The man who understands the world doesn't need to raise his voice. He's already 5 steps ahead. He isn't disappointed by people's flaws. He's already factored them into his strategy. He doesn't cry about human nature. He uses it. He expects betrayal, so when it arrives, it's not a tragedy. It's timing. He expected it. He was watching for it, and he's ready to move. This is why Machiavelli warned against placing your trust too easily. Not because trust is bad, but because misplaced trust blinds you. When you believe the world operates according to your own code of loyalty, you are vulnerable. But when you see clearly, without bitterness, without naivete, then nothing surprises you. And when nothing surprises you, nothing angers you, because everything fits the model. People protect their status. They choose security over principle. They serve their interests. And if you are truly honest, so do you. You must understand, rage comes from illusion. The illusion that people owe you. The illusion that they will put your interests above theirs. The illusion that they will never hurt you if you're good to them. Destroy those illusions and you destroy the root of your anger. This isn't about becoming cynical. It's about becoming dangerous, because the more clearly you see, the less power anyone has over your emotions. And the man who cannot be shaken emotionally is the man who cannot be controlled. You stop seeing disrespect as personal. You start seeing it as pattern. You stop seeing betrayal as rare. You start seeing it as probable. And that shift makes you powerful in silence. Understanding gives you emotional leverage. It allows you to anticipate, to outthink, to endure without wasting energy. The emotional man screams at a locked door. The rational man looks for the key, and the Machiavellian man already knew the door would be locked and prepared another way in. To live without anger, you must first live without illusion. You must understand what people truly are, not what they pretend to be. And when you do, the need to react disappears because nothing surprises you. And when you're never surprised, you're never provoked. Every insult is a message. Every provocation is a signal. The average man hears the insult and reacts emotionally. The Machiavellian man hears the insult and listens carefully, because when someone tries to trigger you, they're not just speaking, they're exposing themselves. They're telling you what matters to them, what they fear, where their insecurities live, and what weakness they believe lives in you. If you're paying attention, you'll realize something. Every insult is intelligence, and when you respond with anger, you destroy the chance to use it. Imagine someone mocks your voice, your status, your intelligence. The common man feels wounded. He feels the need to strike back, and so he replies with fire. He roars, he argues, he tries to prove his worth. But the moment he speaks from ego, he steps onto a battlefield he didn't choose. And more importantly, he lets the other person control the game. That's not power, that's being handled. The Machiavellian mind, however, operates on a different level. He doesn't flinch when insulted. He listens, he studies. He dissects the tone, the timing, the crowd, the motive. Was the insult designed to impress others? Was it meant to provoke a scene? Was it a test of boundaries? Was it rooted in envy or fear? While others feel the sting of disrespect, he's collecting psychological data in real time. He doesn't need to win the moment. He's focused on the war. You see, most people are reactors. They live life on emotional autopilot. If someone's kind, they smile. If someone's cruel, they explode. And because of that, they remain forever predictable, forever manipulable, and that's exactly why they lose. They walk through life broadcasting their triggers. You insult them once, they show you everything. You say one sentence, and they reveal their trauma, their pride, their lack of discipline. And just like that, they hand you the blueprint to destroy them. But the disciplined mind sees insults for what they are, attempts at leverage, and the only way they work is if you bite. Because insults don't work by themselves. They only work if they change your emotional state. If they make you speak out of character, if they shift your energy from strategy to chaos, that's the goal, to make you unbalanced. And Machiavelli warned that imbalance is the beginning of defeat. The one who loses his center is already halfway conquered. So what do? You observe. You don't just brush it off. You document it. Not on paper, but in memory. You remember who threw the insult. You remember how they moved, who was watching, whether they were bold or hesitant, whether they were testing you or hoping you wouldn't notice. Because every insult contains more about the person delivering it than the person receiving it. People reveal more when they are trying to hide it. And in their attempt to disrespect you, they show you the precise areas where they feel powerless. They insult your ambition because they have none. They mock your confidence because theirs is brittle. They question your loyalty because they've betrayed others. And when you respond with anger, you let them mask it all. But when you respond with silence, with calm, with that unreadable face, then they panic. Because now the spotlight is on them. Their emotional leak is showing, and you didn't give them the performance they wanted. Here's the truth. Anger is easy. Silence is strategic. Anyone can get angry. But not everyone can stay still when the fire is rising. And in that stillness, you learn everything. You see who's posturing, who's bluffing, who's overcompensating, and most importantly, who is desperate for your reaction. The moment someone needs you to react, they've already admitted their dependence on your energy. They need you angry so they feel powerful. They need you loud so they can pretend you're irrational. But if you don't give them that, they shrink because your silence does more damage than your fury ever could. It creates doubt. It makes them wonder. It makes them nervous, and nervous people make mistakes. Your calm is a weapon. Your lack of reaction is a message. And that message is simple. You don't move me. That is psychological warfare. That is emotional dominance. That is how you win without ever raising your voice. When you understand this, everything changes. You stop looking at disrespect as a personal attack. You start seeing it as a strategic opportunity. You stop needing to speak every time someone crosses the line. You start watching what they just revealed about themselves when they thought they were attacking you. Because you know something most people never will. Those who insult you are not testing your strength, they're showing their fear. And when they see you can't be moved, they start to wonder what else they don't know about you. The greatest illusion of control is thinking it comes from managing others. The truth is much colder, much simpler. Control begins and ends with yourself. The man who cannot rule his own emotions has no business ruling over anything else. He may speak loudly, he may appear dominant, but if his heartbeat races every time he's insulted, if his jaw clenches every time someone questions him, if his temper takes the throne, then he is not in control. He is being ruled by invisible forces that anyone clever enough can manipulate at will. Machiavelli understood this at the core of power, that a prince must not just appear composed in front of the court, but must be internally fortified. Because if your power exists only in image, it crumbles the moment pressure is applied, and pressure always comes. People test you, crisis finds you, enemies probe for weakness not once, but constantly. In every room, someone is watching how easily you can be thrown off your balance. The more predictable your emotions, the easier you are to control. To master others, you must first be immune to provocation. Not by suppressing your feelings, but by training yourself to remain calm under fire. The soldier does not flinch at the sound of gunfire, not because he feels nothing, but because he has trained himself to respond only when it counts. Your mind must become a disciplined army under your command, not a mob that riots every time ego is bruised. That is where true power begins, not in the ability to attack, but in the ability to withhold. Everyone wants to look powerful. They want the posture, the voice, the reputation. But very few are willing to do the work that real power demands, the ability to restrain yourself, because that restraint doesn't feel glamorous. It feels silent, lonely, thankless, but it is in that silence where supremacy is built. The man who doesn't need to prove anything, who doesn't need to win every argument, who doesn't need to respond to every challenge, he terrifies people. Because they can't read him, they can't pull him, they don't know what makes him tick, and what you cannot predict, you cannot control. This is why those who constantly react, who show outrage at every offense, who explode every time they feel disrespected, are easy targets. Their control is external. They only feel strong when others validate them. But the moment their environment shifts, the mask falls off, and they become what they've always been: emotionally exposed, manipulable, and hollow. Machiavelli warned that rulers must appear virtuous, but act only when it serves power, and sometimes the most powerful action is none at all, because people are not afraid of your strength. They are afraid of your control. A man who can control his anger makes others question theirs. A man who stays silent in the face of insult forces others to sit in the discomfort of their own insecurity. That's how you shift power without saying a word. That's how you dominate a room without raising your voice. People expect chaos. They expect confrontation. And when you don't deliver it, you disrupt their strategy. In a world that thrives on reaction, your ability to remain unmoved becomes your most dangerous trait. It is not detachment, it is command, to observe your emotions without obeying them, to feel the insult but not let it move you, to detect the heat but not allow it to set fire. That is emotional mastery. And it is rare, which is why those who possess it rise quickly above those who don't. You'll hear people say it's unhealthy to hold in anger, but what they misunderstand is this: you are not holding it in. You are transforming it, redirecting it, turning it into observation, strategy, timing. You are choosing not to act out of compulsion, but out of precision. And in doing so, you reverse the power dynamic. Now you are not being pushed, you are pulling. You are not reacting, you are controlling the flow, and the people around you feel it, they sense it. Something about you doesn't move like them. You're quieter, slower, more deliberate. You don't flinch. You don't chase, you don't need to. Because you know that the most powerful man in the room is not the loudest, but the one whose emotions are completely under his own rule. He is a fortress, built not with stone, but with discipline. The kind of discipline that is invisible on the outside, but unshakable on the inside. The kind that no insult, no attack, no betrayal can penetrate. You've been taught that anger is strength. That when someone disrespects you, The only way to respond is to explode, to prove something, to fight back. But the truth is far more brutal. Anger is the leash they use to pull you around. And the man who reacts emotionally to every insult, every betrayal, every loss of control isn't dangerous. He's predictable, and predictable men never hold power for long. What you've seen here isn't about becoming emotionless. It's about becoming untouchable. It's about seeing that every insult is a trap, not a threat. Every betrayal is expected, not shocking. Every emotional trigger is an opportunity to learn, not a reason to fall apart. And more than anything, it's about turning your inner chaos into command. Because the man who cannot be provoked cannot be defeated. The one who watches instead of reacts, who understands instead of assumes, who restrains instead of erupts, that man becomes something rare. He becomes feared without speaking. He becomes respected without asking. He becomes a master not just of others, but of himself. You don't need to raise your voice to win. You need to raise your mind. You don't need to prove you're powerful. You need to become the kind of man who doesn't need to prove anything at all. That is how you never get angry again. Not because you lost your fire, but because you learned how to control where and when it burns. That is what separates the average man from the Machiavellian.